In this section, we're going to talk about premium reduction tips. And the first issue we're going to talk about is our strong recommendation to have all of your insurance renew on the same date, to have one expiration date. There are many reasons for this. First, you're going to receive much more attention from underwriters because you have much more premium clout in the marketplace. Brokers might argue that, well, underwriters for auto insurance companies don't necessarily write workers' compensation and vice versa. But there are times when insurance companies will look at more than one type of insurance. And so to make yourself available to those opportunities, whether it's this year, next year, or in the future, you want to make sure you have all of your insurance renew on the same date. Secondly, if you should decide to have more than one broker obtain quotes for you, you'll get much more broker interest if you have all of your premium renewing on the same date, because obviously there's more commission available. We think you'll get better brokers to bid on your insurance if you have all of your insurance renewing at one time. There's a truism in insurance, something that's discussed in every brokerage firm at some point, and it goes like this. If a broker has an account and writes all of the insurance for that account, if they spread the policies across the calendar, they can't lose the entire account in one fell swoop. And if they have competition and lose a piece of the business, they will still have an opportunity to retain the rest of the business and hopefully retain the relationship, rebuild the relationship, I should say, with the client. So brokers consciously either allow the policies to expire at different times across the calendar, or they arrange it that way. And so we really recommend to clients that they look to consolidate their expirations. And as we've said many times, there are a lot of good brokers and a lot of bad brokers. Just because your expirations are spread across the calendar doesn't mean your broker has consciously tried to defeat your interest in obtaining the lowest pricing. It's just that that conversation has taken place in virtually every brokerage firm across America at some point. Last interest, of course, is efficiency for you. It's obviously a lot more efficient to deal with insurance at one time. Some people have argued that there's a cash flow challenge because you have deposit premiums that all come together if you have all of your insurance renewing on the same date. But cash flow issues can usually be overcome with premium finance agreements and with installment offerings from insurance companies on the payments that you have to make. So we don't think cash flow is a big challenge for most clients, and you should look to consolidate your expirations on one date. A couple of other issues I'm going to touch on real briefly here. Common industry dates. A lot of industries over time have found that there's a program available and it becomes very popular. So for example, right now there's a program available for workers' compensation for restaurants, but that program, while very popular, requires all restaurants in the program to have the expiration on January 1st. The problem is that when they go out to look for alternate quotes outside of that program, they are competing with all the other restaurants that have their insurance expiring at the same time. And as we've said before, underwriters decline the majority of applications. And so if you're competing all at the same time for the attention of the underwriter, it makes it even more difficult for you to obtain alternate quotes. If you move your date, if you're not in a program that requires you to have an expiration on that date, and you move your date to a date when most restaurants in this example are not renewing, you're obviously going to have much more attention from underwriters and you should obtain more quotes. Another issue is to avoid the fiscal quarters, and in particular January 1st. It's estimated that 40% of all the workers' compensation insurance in California renews on January 1st. So obviously, if you're renewing on January 1st, you are competing with all of the other businesses for the attention of all the underwriters. So it makes it more difficult to obtain alternate quotes. Strongly recommend you avoid the fiscal quarters. We tend to like earlier in the year when insurance companies haven't met their goals yet, when underwriters are still very eager to quote and try to write business. But there are different arguments on that. But clearly, if you avoid the fiscal quarters, we think you're better off. The document we have on the website has some advice. If you download the document on common expiration dates, having one expiration date, you'll see some advice on how to accomplish it. But it's really quite simple. Typically, you leave your workers' compensation date alone unless it's on the fiscal quarters. And then you actually shop the rest of your insurance around the same date that the workers' compensation renews. But if you download the document, it'll walk you through that.